The Barrow Community Foundation and the City of Winder, we partnered together on the Winder Legacy Park that recently opened. That was amazing to see the community support and to see your board members and just to see that park come to fruition. And then we have this horrible tragedy come to our community. Talk to me about this crisis fund that the Community Foundation started.
A community foundation is a nonprofit organization that exists to connect donors with causes. I think it's really prudent and really one of our highest responsibilities to make sure that this fund is used properly. Every penny of it is going to be used in some way to help the school recover, to help the community recover, and to help the people who have been directly impacted by the tragedy.
I'm not going to ask you the $1 million question, because the $1 million question is there $1 million in that fund? And the answer is welcome to Plugged In, a City of Winder podcast. I'm Katie Strickland, your host, and today we have the pleasure of sitting down with the Executive Director of the Barrow Community Foundation, Miss Angela Yarman. Angela, thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to join us today.
Thank you, Katie. I'm so glad to be here.
So starting off, the Barrow Community Foundation and the City of Winder, we partnered together on the Winder Legacy Park that recently opened. And I mean, that was amazing to see the community support and to see your board members and just to see that park come to fruition, right? Like just wonderful, very celebratory. And then we have this horrible tragedy come to our community. And it was like clockwork, right? The Community Foundation mobilized and started a crisis fund. So I guess start there. Talk to me about this crisis fund that the Community Foundation started.
So a community foundation is a nonprofit organization that exists to connect donors with causes. And we are the Barrow Community Foundation, so we're particularly interested in causes here in Barrow County. So we do that kind of work all through the year, working with donors to try to help them understand the needs of the community and where they can give their donations to make the greatest impact. The park is a great example of that. But when this crisis occurred, we knew that it was a very important role for us to play to be able to give the community a reliable place to invest their charitable dollars so that they could know that the fund would be handled properly and it would go to where the needs are greatest. So immediately on the day of the incident, we activated the Barrow Community Crisis Fund and we designated it for the Apalachee recovery.
So this fund, I know we've talked, offline about this, and I've tried to learn as much as I can because community foundations don't give to individuals. They give to nonprofits or to organizations. So talk to me more about that.
Sure. So community foundations as nonprofit organizations and as organizations that handle people's money, we have some very important laws that govern our work. And because we are a nonprofit organization and we are able to give people tax deductions for their charitable contributions, we have to ensure that the funds are used for what's called a qualified charitable purpose. There are some very specific laws about that. And you could argue that any purpose related to this crisis is a qualified charitable purpose. But in terms of the law and the IRS, we have certain things that we have to do. One of the ways that we can ensure that our funding is invested in a qualified charitable purpose is by making sure we give it to either nonprofit organizations who have a 501c3 status or to government agencies like the school district, the school, city and county government, sheriff's office. Any of those kinds of organizations are also qualified to receive the funding.
We've seen a lot of local fundraisers come up. I mean, I've seen car shows, T-shirts, signs. With those, do you have an ability to tell them what to do with that money? I mean, is this something that, you're not a fundraiser, or are you a fundraiser? Tell me about that relationship.
So we've just been so touched by the numerous people who have come out and offered to hold fundraisers for us. We've had everything from those ladies that did the T-shirt campaign, and they raised a lot of money, and we've already received that money, so we're very grateful for that. We've had people who are planning a concert. We've got someone who is planning a golf tournament. We've had lots of different things. But we want to be very clear that those people are acting independently. We don't partner with those organizations. We don't endorse their efforts. We don't sponsor any of those events. And that's really because that would expose us to liability that could jeopardize the entire fund. So when someone comes out and says they're doing an event, we're extremely grateful for it, but it's not our event. And then they end up donating their proceeds just like anyone else. They've done the work and they've made the money, and then they make a donation.
Okay, so it's those are the individual fundraisers. Like we want to sell T-shirts, we want to host a car show, we want to host all these things, and then we take that, and then we as the individuals or the organization that do the work, then we give that money.
Yes.
Okay, so that makes sense. So it's not like on behalf of. It's you're doing your own thing, and then and you can't. I mean, what a horrible thing that would happen if they said, "Oh, we're doing this," and then they took the money and didn't give it to the community foundation.
Well, and we've advised people, and we have something on our website that makes it clear that we don't sponsor these events, and that we urge the public to be careful about who they are doing business with. Make sure that they know and trust the people that are putting on the events that they are investing their dollars in. Fortunately, we've had no problems. Everyone who has said that they're contributing to us so far, we're seeing those dollars come in, and we've not had anything where we are speculating that anybody has done anything that they shouldn't have done.
So I know this community has just really they've risen up, right? Like they
Yes.
have really stepped up. So I guess because the Crisis Fund and the Community Foundation acted so quickly, have you seen any scammers out there? I mean, are you suspicious of any GoFundMes? I mean, tell me maybe the top 2 or 3 ways that I know if I see something that I know I'm giving my money to a charitable cause that's actually going to touch the folks here in Barrow and not somebody doing their nails in California.
Right. So I think it's important to recognize that those GoFundMe accounts that the families have in place are important. Those families need support. Our thoughts and prayers and greatest compassion go out to everyone who has been impacted by this tragedy. And we want people to be supported. And as far as people making gifts to individuals, the GoFundMe accounts are serving a great purpose. Our fund is more for the community's broad recovery. So, you have to think there are a couple of thousand kids at Apalachee and all of their families and the teachers and the first responders. And so we want to make funding available for broader uses, although we certainly acknowledge that providing direct support to the families is extremely important. I think it's really important for people to look at those GoFundMe accounts and make sure that the people who are sponsoring them are clearly related to the families, that they have a relationship with those families. Make sure that the GoFundMe accounts are local. Make sure that there's some connection between the person who's organizing the fund and the actual family. And so that would be the caution that I would give to anyone who's considering making a gift to the GoFundMe accounts. But for people who want to make a broader impact on the community, the Barrow Community Foundation and the Barrow Community Crisis Fund is really a great way to make sure that the funds are available for needs that we might not even understand yet. We know that there will be some long-term needs. We don't really know how those are going to manifest. And so the grant program that we will have with the nonprofits and the government agencies will help address those needs over time. And so that's why the fund exists. It's for the broad community recovery.
So, and when you say that, that means like we don't have a plan in place yet. Like these funds are in fundraising, like they're in the account. They're people who have given are going to get, I guess, tax, a receipt saying that they've given this money and it's tax exempt or, that kind of thing. But there's not a list of here's what we're going to do with this money yet. Y'all are still waiting on what that looks like. So tell me about that process. Is it a grant process or a board decision? How are y'all making those decisions going forward?
I think it's really prudent and really one of our highest responsibilities to make sure that this fund is used properly. It would be irresponsible of us at this point to be able to pinpoint exactly what this money is going to be used for. We can say that it definitely will be used for the Apalachee recovery. It is designated for that, and every penny of it is going to be used in some way to help the school recover, to help the community recover, and to help the people who have been directly impacted by the tragedy. So we do know that. It's hard for us to say at this point what the plans are going to be. We don't really know yet what the school district is going to need. We don't really know what the nonprofit community is going to need. We know that there are other funds that are coming, and some of them may cover certain things and not cover other things. So we want to be sure that the money that comes from the Crisis Fund is being used for the things that can't be paid for with other funds, like from the state and federal government, other resources.
Well, and also just donations. Like people, it's been almost... it's just tear-jerking to me sometimes where I'll ask a consultant that I've used for other things. For instance, we needed some photography done here for the city for one of the events that we hosted because, our bandwidth, we're little city. And the gentleman that did the photography for us that evening sent me an invoice for $0. So the people's hearts are into giving, and they have that servant heart. They want to give out of the fact that this horrible, horrible, heinous thing that happened to us, they feel like it happened to them too. So I think that is just such a unifying message that we're all part of this human condition, and I think the efforts of the Crisis Fund are speaking to that as well, because maybe you live in Gwinnett County, maybe you live in Jackson County like me, and you want to help because you didn't have a student there, you're not part of the school system, you're part of the community because you work here every day. But if you're going to give a sizable donation, you kind of want to know that donation is making its way to, if not a nonprofit, to some kind of, like you said, I like the way you said, a broader recovery. Because like you said, it could be next year before you really know that counseling's not something that you're paying for, that people are going to be volunteering to do that counseling, or that counselors are going to come into the school, or there's just so many things that are going to come together to make this puzzle a complete puzzle, right?
Yes. It's important to recognize that we're just a few days out from the actual incident. And there has certainly been a need for an immediate response. I mean, I know that people have reached out to nonprofit agencies in the community already, and I know that the school district and other resources have been brought in. The Georgia Emergency Management was here for a week with their resources, and so those responses are really important. And our fund can be used also to help the nonprofits who have already been responding, and we do plan to do that as part of our grant process. But it's also really important for us to recognize that we don't know everything yet, and that we have to be patient in watching to see exactly how all of this unfolds, and we have to make very prudent decisions about how we use the limited resources.
So what's the best way for folks to learn more about the Community Foundation, and then also learn more about their, donating to the Crisis Fund?
So they can go to our website at Barrow CF, as in Community Foundation, barrowcf.org. And then right there on the front page, there's a button that says Apalachee Recovery. That takes you to the Crisis Fund page, and that gives you all of the frequently asked questions and information. And we're adding to that page as decisions are made and we know more about the processes that we're going through. So everything that is current information is on the website, and the donate button is also there.
Well, it has been a pleasure talking with you about this, seeing that, the Community Foundation took action as soon as they could. Is there anything else that I didn't really ask you about that the community might be wondering, or that you get a lot of questions about, that you feel like, let me just say this on the record for everybody that's listening? Is there anything that you would feel led to share?
I think there are two things that it's really important for the public to understand. One is that the money that is coming into the Crisis Fund, it's not all here yet. We've had a great response to our donation button on the website. We've had more than 500 people give us $25 to $100, and that has been fantastic. But the corporations and the foundations and the large organizations that have reached out to us and said that they plan to donate, they have a process that they have to go through. So we've had paperwork that we've had to submit, grant applications that we've had to write, portals that we've had to sign up for, lots of things that we've had to do to facilitate those gifts, and that money is not here yet. So the fund is doing very well. We've had lots of great commitments, but people, I think, need to understand that we are not sitting on a lot of money. We have some money coming in already, and we're already making plans to begin granting that out. That will happen in the next few days.
Oh, that's wonderful. So people would go and you would release a grant application, nonprofit organization would be able to fill out and apply for the grant, and then you would go to the board, and the board would make the decision, right?
That's exactly how it works, Katie. So we're expecting by the end of the month that we'll have our grant application posted on our website. We're also going to be reaching out to any of the nonprofits in the community that have their name on the listserv with Family Connection. We're partnering with them for that, and on our social media. So we're really trying to get the word out when the grant application opens, and then folks will have about 2 weeks to get those grant applications back in. We know that some of the nonprofits are already very busy, and we don't want to burden them with a complicated grant application. It's a very simple form that they fill out. They just explain what they're doing, what their needs are, and how much money they need. And then we have a fantastic committee that has been appointed by the board. It has broad representation from all over the community. It involves leaders from the school district, a member of the Apalachee High School faculty, a representative from the Sheriff's Department, a county elected official, representatives from the business community, including the largest employer in the community, and a representative from one of the largest churches in the community. So we think we've brought together a panel of people who have a broad perspective on what the needs are and will have their finger on the pulse of what the needs are going to be over time, who will be reviewing those applications and making decisions about how we can best serve people's needs with the limited funds that we have.
So right now, I'm not going to ask you the $1 million question, because the $1 million question is there $1 million in that fund? And the answer is, the money is coming in, but it's in flux, right?
Right.
You can't really go, it's not like a checking account. You can just go look in the fund.
Right.
It's not accurate. It's ever flux, right?
If I told you a number right this minute, it would be inaccurate by the time this goes on the air. We can say that the fund is doing very well. I think before very long, it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. The fund is going to be open until June of next year. So by the time it's all said and done, it may be $1 million or more. We just don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
So once the grant application hits, will we be able to see where that money's going? Will you make announcements of this organization was granted this money for therapy dogs or whatever the need is for,
yes.
Right? So we'll be able to follow the story and this journey.
Absolutely. So we are posting, when we have permission from the donor, when we get a large gift in, we are posting on our social media that such and such a company gave us a nice gift. And we're recognizing people who are helping us with the fundraisers that they're doing. So you can kind of get an idea of how much money's coming in by following that. Not all donors are allowing us to disclose their amount. But then also, when the grants begin to go out, we will be posting that, what organizations are getting the money, how much they've received, and what it's for. So people will be able to follow along and see exactly what's happening to this fund as it continues to unfold.
So I know what has happened has been, so very tragic, but the need for the community to come together and the need for a crisis fund, this crisis fund, it's not just going to go away. Like you said, the Apalachee recovery will be through June of next year, but that crisis fund is set up in, I love the word that you've used, in perpetuity, right? So it will last for ever.
Yes.
And folks, if there's anything else that happens, I know like during COVID, there were community foundations in local areas that would have those kind of funds set up for COVID relief. So talk to me about that. Is this will last forever, right?
Yes, and it's part of what we are trying to accomplish broadly as an organization, as the Community Foundation. We really want to be the place where local people know that they can make their contributions and that the money will be used to serve Barrow County, to impact the quality of life here and serve the people who need help. And so the Crisis Fund is just one way to do that. But now that it is set up, when we close out the Apalachee recovery, when we've spent all the money that's designated for Apalachee, the fund will continue to exist and it'll be ready to be activated on a moment's notice the next time something happens, like, for example, heaven forbid, if we had a tornado or something like that. If there was ever a need in the future for a community-wide crisis that needs to raise money, the Barrow Community Foundation will be there to do that.
It is such a neat thing. I've been around nonprofits, been in government over a decade and seen some community foundations, but never understood that they give they give life to our nonprofits. You know,
Yes.
that is the nonprofit that is, you've said it before, like it's the legacy of legacies, because it goes on forever, and it helps to not only fund things, but it helps to train, and it helps to really put depth with the nonprofits and the resources that are within that community. So I'm just so glad you came to Barrow County. I'm so glad you came to the Community Foundation, and I know the city is just a great partner with the foundation. And if there's anything else that we can do to be with you and to help you through this process, please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
We're so grateful to the City of Winder, not only for this opportunity to help us get the word out about the Crisis Fund today, but for everything that the city does to support our work in the foundation. And I'm just so glad to be here today. Thank you, Katie.
Well, thank you for your time. Thanks for listening or watching to the City of Winder's new podcast, Plugged In. Hit that subscribe button so that you too can become a Winder insider, learning first about all the great things going on in the City of Opportunity.